Welcome to another episode of the Brew Chronicles. I reckon we're in for a really good one today. I've sent Jesse off already. He was expecting me to bring beers. I didn't.
You showed up empty-handed. Disgusting behaviour. You also all might notice that Shaz does not have a beer in front of her.
No, she's on the coffees.
And why is that?
I'm doing 75 hard. I'm actually on day 14. So along with that means off the rinse, off anything good for a full 75 days.
Battling demons.
Proper. Do you know what? This is actually, I should have asked you off camera, but I'll put it on. Do you ever get FOMO?
Every single day. This is why I never miss a party. This is why I'm always the last one to leave. This is why I get in trouble so much.
Do you know what? I thought being off the rinse, I'd be completely fine. And for the most part, I am. But come Wednesdays when we do this, and come like Friday, Saturday, and I am a dirty thing for a Sunday bevy, it was really unpleasant. And it was something that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I commend you on it. There's no way I could do it.
Yeah, anyway, so both of us, FOMO queens.
That's it. Right, on the agenda today, we have a few topic points we've pulled from one of the home brewing pages on Facebook. A few little comments. We thought we'd have a little bit of a dig through there, see if we can find any Easter eggs. Talk about some topics we have not yet, and hopefully come across some issues that you guys might have run into along your merry way.
Yeah. So first up on the Facebook post that I've pulled up. So we have a lovely gentleman. So he's done a very basic all grain recipe. He's let it cool, done all the right things to 40 degrees. He's then transferred it into his sanitized Fermzilla. From there, what he's done is he's closed it all up. He's left it 2 days. He's gone to make a yeast starter and he's gone, oh, my fermenter is seriously pressurized. What the hell has gone on? So, do you want to kick us off with what you think has happened?
Well,
what would you do?
A little bit of a curious one, because obviously normally transferring a hot wort into a cool vessel and then cooling it down, it normally ensues negative pressure. So for it to be positive pressure means there has been some form of fermentation taking place. Now, if he has not yet pitched the yeast, it's even more curious because you would lead you to think that it would be in some form of infection.
Yeah.
Now, it's obviously unlikely to be coming out of the grain father or digiboiler, or whatever he's come from, because obviously you're going to do a boil off. The predominant reason for that is obviously kill any unwanted nasties in there. So it's more than likely he's picked up something in the cube, I would assume. There isn't really too many other things that are going to...
Yeah, so my thought was just something's gone amiss in his sanitization process, especially using the Fermzilla. Like maybe he didn't mix it up to ratio, maybe he left it there, rinse it, who knows. I think this is also the downfall to letting your wort cool, because I know you hot cube, so we'll go into that. But you obviously can't hot cube into a Fermzilla because they're rated to about 60 degrees.
Yes. Now, the other thing that I was going to brush on there really quickly, apart from the temperature being absolutely paramount, because we all recall Shaz melting the arse out of one, is... I'm not really sure I lost my point there, but yes, you need to be extremely cautious. That's it, I forgot it. Right. Sanitization. You need to be extremely mindful of the fact that you need to be sanitizing your vessels immediately and then putting them to use. Don't sanitize them, fill them up, and then leave them aside to cool, dry for a day or two or whatever, because it's always, if it's exposed to the elements, there is always potential for you to pick up some unwanted nasties.
So I did a short form, how do I clean and store my fermenters, and in that I shared my comment, and you do the same, nuking the shit out of our fermenters with sanitizer, and that's how we store them. But then I reiterated the fact that that's just how I'm storing it. That then gets thoroughly rinsed, re-sanitized, and then our beer gets put down straight away. So always doing that.
Yeah, Shaz and I are a bit of a stickler for sanitization. I know I go a bit overboard sometimes, but there's also a reason why I don't lose beers. Touching on that topic though, we might jump in here really quickly. I know one of the other points was stalled fermentation.
Yeah.
So I did a big boy NEPA just the other week. Finished at approximately 1082, I believe. So quite a large beer. Now, double pitched some Verdant to it. Left it for a few days in the old brewing fridge. Come back to it, and there was almost no activity whatsoever. Now, very unusual because Verdant normally tears through my beers. And obviously being such a monster beer, I sort of come to a little bit of a crossroads with myself, trying to figure out what the bloody hell happened. Initially, I thought I laid down a hazy pale ale at the same time. I thought I might have had a few too many brewskis that afternoon and accidentally thrown all of the Verdant into hazy.
So you don't want that. And it's not like that would be completely out of the realm of possibility.
Not whatsoever.
All right, so what did happen? I'm assuming you did a hydrometer reading.
So I did a hydrometer reading. It's come down a little bit. So
what was the reading? Do you remember?
I believe it was probably down to around 1050 by that point.
Right, so it done something.
So, yeah, it's certainly done something. Now, bearing in mind, this was quite a number of days after pitch rate, right? So really, most of my beers are almost finished up by that point. I got a little bit slack with the dry hopping. We'll also touch on that again a little bit later on. So stalled ferment. So a few things to go off of, right? One of the first things I thought of was maybe even though I double pitched the Verdant was under pitching. Pitch rates are absolutely crucial. You'll see on majority of yeast packets, adequate pitch rates. You want to keep your yeast happy and healthy. Although you might think of it as abundance of food, they'll be in there happy as Larry, and it's not always the case. More often than not, you're going to be stressing your yeast. You're going to be developing unwanted flavors, some funky esters and whatnot. Now, the next thing that I did was bang a pH meter in it. Now, I'd done a pH reading after I'd done my mash and boil, and it was fine. One thing, like I stated earlier, I am absolutely stickler for sanitization. I mix mine up quite strong. So I thought that maybe, again, having a few too many brewskis, I might have accidentally left some phosphoric acid mix in the bottom of my hot cube when I transferred it to the cube before I stuck it in the fridge.
And for all of those, I'll just quickly pipe in, phosphoric acid is actually a nutrient to yeast if you use it responsibly, which these two dingbats tend not to.
Yeah.
So a little bit, then this is why it's a non-rinse sanitizer made to ratio, and it actually supports your yeast during fermentation. Not if you nuke it,
no.
But if you are using it adequately, a little bit is actually really beneficial.
So, did a pH reading. She came out at around 5.3. So, more than okay. So, the only real thing that I can think of is maybe that there was just too much stress on the yeast. So, created a little yeast starter, banged a heap of nutrient in it, pumped it in, and about 3 days later, she was down to around 1020. So, more than well got on its way.
Yeah.
Now, I still haven't done a final gravity on it, so I only just did the second hydrometer reading on it the other day. Obviously, being such a huge NEPA with a lot of different adjuncts, I'm not exactly sure how low that gravity will get. Probably won't really get below 1010, I wouldn't assume. So that was my rectification of my issues. A couple of key points there. Adequate pitch rate, enough yeast nutrient, Oxygen is another big one. When you're talking about huge beers, you need to have adequate oxygen at the start of fermentation. Now, obviously, you don't want oxygen in your beer during or post-fermentation because obviously you're going to get oxidization, but yeast does need adequate oxygen in there. The other thing too, if you're doing all grain, pH.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that I'll just add in addition to your pH, sometimes with your really, really big guys, and if you've pitched what would have been adequate yeast, your yeast byproducts can actually be acidic. And that can throw out your pH. I've had one a long, long time ago, fermentation stalled. Essentially, the ABV was so high, even though there was enough yeast, the yeast eventually got killed off by its own metabolites.
Yeah.
And it was super, super acidic. So then obviously we had to go back, add some alkalizer, repitched, all was well in the world. But that can also occur too, that it's not necessarily the acidity of your mash or whatever, it's what happens after.
Now, next point, do as I say, not as I do. As you heard in that
Don't get pissed and brew beer.
last little yarn, right? I am not always on top of my dry hopping. I normally am every time I brew a big NEPA, right? I've been a little bit of a slack ass in the last week or so, where it was another post, what was it? Brewed a beer.
He brewed a beer. He missed his day 4 dry hop. Brew has finished fermenting. Basically, has he missed the mark? If he dry hops now, what are the consequences? What would you do? What would I do? What would they do?
Right. Well, my take on this one is, depending on style, it's not always immensely important when you're dry hopping. Sort of outside of really hazies, NEPAs, that sort of style. Reason being is because you want to dry hop sort of high Krausen, and sort of double dry hop if you can. The reason being is you get what's called bioconversion. So there's enzymes released from your hops, get into your beer. There's interaction with your yeast. They do their little thing. And the byproduct of it is actual haze formation. It definitely aids and assists in such. Also, if you're dry hopping earlier on, you can spread out the amount of hops in which that you're putting in it with multiple dry hop additions. Obviously, you need to be mindful to mitigate oxidization at said point. But certainly, if you're capping it at the end, it sort of narrows your window down, especially if you're sort of a bit of a thirsty boy like myself.
So the jumping on that point of early dry hops, dry hopping earlier in fermentation is going to also give you a lot more flavor. Those earlier dry hops don't carry as much of the aroma through.
No.
So what you may find is that by dry hopping later, once the beer has finished fermenting, especially if you've done it before, perhaps the aroma will be heightened or be stronger, where that like juicy flavor bodiness in the, like that hop body in the beer may not be as prevalent.
The other thing I will brush on there is another one of my little hiccups along my long life of hiccups, right? I had done another beer one other time, and I'd cold crashed it before I dry hopped it. Now I bombed it with absolute piss out of it with dry hops, right? Anyways, kegged it up, didn't think too much of it. Had a brilliant smell, brilliant flavour, but on the back end had this, what was perceived bitterness. Now, like a really bad bitterness, right on the back of the tongue, almost burning. So it was like hop burn. Now, lesson learned, I won't be dry hopping at cold temps anymore, but that's another thing that I spoke about, is that bioconversion. So even if your beer is finished fermenting, if you add adequate enough hops to it, more often than not, it'll actually kick up fermentation again. Because like I said, it's going to be releasing those enzymes. They have a bit of bioconversion in there with the yeast. They do the little thing. And that is the byproduct of that. But obviously, under cold temperatures, yeast isn't active, it's dormant. So all of those oils and polyphenols that are coming out of your hops are obviously just going to be sitting on it. There's no real conversion happening there.
Yeah. All right. While we're still on, I think we've got 2 more points. While we're still on the topic of fermentation, what is superior? Plastic is steel fermenters superior to plastic? What would you pick? What's your preference?
I suppose it depends on the purpose in which you're trying to serve. Stainless steel is obviously going to be superior in a sense that you're going to mitigate a lot of your issues with infections and such. Obviously, stainless, less prone to scratching, cracking, all the rest of it. There's less places for shit to hide in. Obviously, a lot easier to clean too. Now, my personal preference is I actually don't really like the stainless filters too much. The main reason being is because you can't brew under pressure in them. Now, not that I always brew under pressure, but having the ability to do such is certainly of benefit to me. I don't use the standard ampy fermenters, which is obviously just your standard 30 ones that you see running across everywhere. I predominantly use the Keg King Chubbies or the Firmzillas.
Yeah, I'm in your boat. I've never had the opportunity to actually brew with a stainless steel. From I guess my perspective, the cost difference between, it's substantial.
Yeah.
If I had to pick between your pressure fermenters and your ampies, while there is nothing wrong with ampies, I like the pressure fermenters.
Yeah.
I favour the Firmzilla over the other styles. I think you just, you get to know what you know and you get comfortable with it. I find they are much easier to clean, where the ampies being that different type of plastic, having the handle slots and whatever.
There's also a lot more creases and everything else to get into, yeah.
Yeah, so I do favour those, but in saying that, they're double the price of an ampy as well. So for new brewers, especially
probably almost 3 times the price. So I think they're about $120 or so for the full kit, so your spunding valve and all that sort of stuff, where an ampy with an air locker and tap and whatnot, you're looking at sort of $50. So yeah, 1.5 times the price.
Bottlers can't use pressure fermenters anyway, really.
Because there's no taps, yeah.
Without some serious struggles.
The other thing that's advantageous with your stainless is you've obviously got your tri-clamp drop taps and so on, so you can drop hops and stuff and drop your yeast cake out of the bottom, but a lot of the pressure fermenters have that too.
Yeah.
They have that option. So is it necessary to have a stainless steel fermenter? Absolutely not.
It's not even necessary to have the pressure, really, either, is it?
It's not necessary to have shoes to walk, but it helps, you know what I mean?
All right, next one. I think this is our last one. I have to check, but someone's wrote in and said, once I gas my kegs, do they have to stay in the fridge or can they be stored at room temperature in the cupboard? So do you want to kick us off with your thoughts?
Now, I'm a little bit of a stickler for this as well. I'm a bit anal retentive across the board, really, when it comes to my kegs, but pretty much once I've transferred, I will cool my beer and force charge it immediately. Sometimes I don't even wait for my beer to get cool to stick a little bit of force charge in it. Main reason being is purging, obviously, all the oxygen out. I want to mitigate as much oxidization as possible. We've gone through videos on that before. Obviously, you want to be purging your kegs. Really, there shouldn't be any air in there whatsoever.
Apart from CO2.
Yeah, good point. I said air, not gas, but anyway. Right, now, I haven't experimented too much with storage outside of the fridge. I did have a yarn to a couple of fellas at the Brew meeting about this, and it's neither here nor there in accordance to them. As long as you're not getting your beer excessively hot and then excessively cool and then excessively hot, and you're not really changing the temperament, and you don't have any oxygen inside there, I can't really see it being a problem. Obviously, unless your shed's fucking 50 degrees, which is not ideal.
So I guess my thought when I read this was, are you cooling your beer? So putting in, purging it, putting some CO2 in there. Are you then cooling your beers to carbonate them? Obviously not you, but the
Should you?
The
Yes.
author.
Should you? Yes, that's good practice. Yeah.
So, because CO2 is saturated into cold liquids much more effectively than warm or room temperature. In which case, if you're putting your beer into the fridge, fully carbonating it, you don't want to kick her out then outside the fridge because you've had these huge fluctuations in temperature. Could you perhaps put your beer into your keg, purge out all of the oxygen, have your put it on some CO2, make sure it's got a nice head of CO2, and then store it outside? That to me seems...
Well, I wouldn't be storing anything outside.
No, you know what I mean? But outside the fridge, sitting
Yeah.
there, like, because, this, you know what? You wouldn't have half the problems that you have if you actually had a couple of kegs sitting there ready to go.
Yeah, I know. It's having them and keeping them there that's the issue.
But you know what I mean? So that is potentially an option. But yet, will the CO2 saturate and carbonate the beer effectively at room temperature? I'm assuming it does, just not as good as it
Now,
would.
I've sort of got my saturation rates down pat.
But that's cold.
No, I actually had my hot saturation rates down pat. Like I said, this is not great practice. Do as I say, not as I do. Now, but like I said, I've spoken to quite a number of people, and the other thing is, my primary thought process was, do beers condition the same at warmer temperatures as they do cold?
Yeah, true. Well, you think bottlers, they're, like, I know it's secondary fermentation,
Yeah.
but that's essentially conditioning your bottles as well.
Yeah, so no real definitive answer there, but I do believe that if you're in a clean, sanitized environment that is free of oxygen and it's not in a predominantly hot environment, I can't see it being an issue.
Yeah. Was that all that was on our list in terms of, I think it was?
I do believe so.
Awesome. So what's your brew of the week? Like, if you're picking a recipe or a kit or even a grain build that you think would suit this week, what would you be brewing?
So the old boy and myself have just laid down a black IPA from All In. I believe the old school name of it is the Midnight Jackal. Back when they had their old...
You actually really liked it, didn't you?
Yeah. So I laid it down over the Chrissy period. Again, sticking with the black theme of everything. Thought, why not?
Yeah.
We did one of their brand new Irish stouts that they've just brought out that I believe they're bringing in their core range, which we're going to be stocking too, which is actually a phenomenal beer. It's gone already though. So,
of course it is. Do you know what? While we're actually on this point, I had someone reach out to me and were like, do you know much about dispensing and carbonating with nitro? How would you go about it? I actually didn't. Years ago, we used to stock nitro and a nitro regulator. For us here, nitro was really hard to get a hold of past like 2021, and Jace is now, if you can't have nitro, why have the regs? So I didn't, but I employed the brewer from Buddy Brewing, my good friend Reese, where is it? To basically be like, hey, how do we do this?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna share that with you because I think it just seems to be so like it's like a real new fad.
Yeah, especially. So there's also multi-use for it too, because a lot of the ladies that I find trickling along here with their partners are really starting to enjoy things like espresso martini kegs,
Yeah.
which are obviously nitrogen saturated.
And I think the advantage of nitro now, obviously because I'm off the rinse, I haven't been able to try it. Buddies has their Dark World on nitro down in Burpengary. They've also got their nitro in the North Lakes Club, Sportos Club, and that's
really?
nitro too.
Brilliant.
There you go, you'll be able to try it. So Reese explained it to me that like nitro basically adds this like creaminess. He said
definitely a different texture.
yeah, he said the only problem is you get a pint and it's literally gone in like 3 mouthfuls because you don't have that like excess carbonation. You know, it's just smooth as a whistle. So for those of you who either have a nitro setup or are looking at getting one and have one, here is Reese's advice. So first of all, you want to preferably get a 30 to 70 mix, so 30% CO2 to 70% nitro. That can be served then either with 100% nitro or the same mix regardless. He does talk about having diffusion plates aren't 100% necessary, but really does aid in that.
Yep.
What else was there that he wrote that I thought? Oh, and then the last thing, serving pressure. So this was the one thing that compared to CO2 was really different. Serving pressure for these guys, for nitro, is 30 to 35 psi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is humming.
Yeah. So I know that's not really well put together in a beautiful kind of list of instructions, but hopefully it will be just enough, because he did say to me the information online, it was really controversial. Like there was, you know, A and B and C, and they were all so different. Anyway, that comes from someone who actually knows what the bloody hell they're doing.
Yeah, which is not a common theme around here.
And so I figure if you don't know, find someone who does actually know, who does do it and used it. And so that's his advice. So if that helps any of you, I reckon we talk to Jace, and because how good would, because you, or even your Schwartz on nitro. Because I don't think it's actually very expensive either.
But the other thing is too, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether nitro would suit the Schwartz style because of how dry and crisp and lagerish that it is.
Kind of, but have you tried Buddy's Black Dark World?
I haven't yet, and I don't know how.
So, yeah, right. So it would, the way I've always described it is a dark beer that will get you to try dark beers if you think you don't like dark beers.
Yeah.
So, and I guess now that I've jumped into more of these black lagers and Schwartz and whatever else, that's kind of what we're getting at.
Yep.
We've got nice multi-flavors, but clean, crisp. You know what that look is? That look is, I finished my pint glass, wind it up, Shari. It's time for a refill. Am I right?
It's getting pretty close.
Well, that's kind of all I had to say on the matter. You've shared your brew of the week. There's no point me sharing a brew of the week because I'm not fucking drinking anyway.
Not for another, what?
I don't
60 days. That's a long
61. I hadn't even counted because...
I'd be counting backwards. I wouldn't be counting forwards, because that way the closer you get, the easier it seems.
Well, it fucking sucks regardless.
I can imagine.
Honestly, just let me have a little bit of a nift. Anyway, so that's us done. Jesse needs a refill.
Cheers, guys.